In this video, we will be discussing about the difference between internal audit and internal control. Not only this, we will be also discussing about the relationship between internal audit and internal control. In many organizations, I have found that there is a huge confusion between understanding the concept of internal audit and internal control. I've seen in my practical work experience that other departments find it very difficult to understand what is the role of the second line of defense, which is internal control, and the third line of defense, which is internal audit. To understand this concept easily, I will be giving you an example. By this example, you will be able to understand very clearly the difference between internal audit and internal control. Let's say you have some cash and variables and you put it in a vault. So the lock on the vault, which you put it a key or it could be any kind of lock, that lock in itself is internal control mechanism which help to protect that cash. After a while, you just come and check whether the lock is working properly or not, and whether your cache is in the right vault in terms of its safety and security. That that activity which you perform by checking whether by trying to put different keys and trying to open it, and then putting the right key and then trying to open it and doing that kind of a testing, that activity in itself is called internal audit. So basically with this example, we understand two things. The first thing is that internal audit is basically an activity, whereas internal control is a mechanism or procedure by which we ensure that the desired objective is being met. Similarly, within the company, internal audit is basically perform the audit activities of different processes within the company, and they check whether those internal controls which are placed in those processes are working effectively or not. If they are not, then they escalate that issue to the management to take the corrective measures. There is a huge misconception that internal audit is primarily responsible for identifying the risk and recommending the internal control. However, this is not true, though we do carry out the in our audit engagement to recommend some kind of if we found any weaknesses in terms of internal control, we do recommend, but this is not the primarily the objective of internal audit. Internal audit objective is mainly to give an independent assurance whether that intended controls are working effectively or not, and that assurance we give it to the board or audit committee. So by this we also understand the second key important point, that internal controls, they report to the management, whereas the internal audit, they report to the board or audit committee independent of the management. So this is the relationship between internal audit and internal control, and the difference is that the internal control basically divides those controls in the system or in the processes within the organization in order to achieve desired objective, be it safeguarding of the assets or achieving certain kind of results from those processes. And internal audit, they perform an independent check. So this is an easy to understand concept to by which you can easily differentiate between the role of internal audit and internal control. One more point I want to clarify, that to better understand, there is a way of telling to the people that internal audit is basically a function, internal control is an activity or a system basically. However, this is not so true, because internal control in itself is a system, but you will find in many complex organization charts or complex organizations that they have in itself an internal control department. So in that case, the the explanation of having that internal audit and internal control, the distinction is that whether it's a department or not, that get blurred. So internal control could also be a department which has a primary objective to keep on continuously monitoring the internal controls within different processes and ensuring that they are effective and the desired objective of those controls are being met. whereas internal audit on periodically basis they carry out different audits of different processes within the organization and give the recommendation if they found any gaps, and they report to the board on the effectiveness of those controls. So this is a clear example. I hope with this um, explanation you might have now some good understanding of the difference between internal audit and internal control as a concept, and internal audit and internal control as a department as well. Thank you for watching, and in the next video I will try to give you some basic understanding of three line of defense for risk management, to have much more clarity over how the risk management function within the organization. Take care and thank you for watching.